I'm Matt Hanna.
And this is Horror Hour with the Hannas,
where we talk about all your favorite scary movies. Although this one might not be a favorite of mine.
Yeah, Matt definitely disliked it more than me. Today we are talking about the 2020 film The Dark and the Wicked. Feels like an appropriately titled film to come out in 2020.
It's probably why we never heard of this one.
Yes, that is exactly why you had never heard of this one. I had heard of this one, hence why we watched it. And we will also be talking about this on an upcoming podcast episode that we're doing as a collab. So you'll hear more about that later on our socials. But yeah, between having heard of this on my end and having heard it was really scary, and then talking about it on a collab, I was like, you know what? It's time. Let's do it. So Matt had never heard of this.
No, never heard of it. Didn't watch any trailers. I knew nothing about it.
Yeah,
which is a very fun way for me to go into movies. I've enjoyed that plenty of other times.
Yeah, I didn't know the plot at all, but I did know that people thought it was really scary.
Well, and people are a bunch of babies.
Well, I thought it was scary. So let me give some more background before we get too deep into it. This film is written and directed by Bryan Bertino, who is best known for writing and directing The Strangers.
Never seen it.
But you heard of it.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Everyone's heard of The Strangers.
Yeah, I remember the first one.
The film is starring Marin Ireland and Michael Abbott Jr.
Yeah, and I don't recognize them from anything else.
I didn't recognize either of them, but I thought Marin did a pretty good job.
They were fine. Nothing crazy.
She's done a good bit of things. She's in the Umbrella Academy, which we didn't watch. She was in The Irishman. So she was in Hell or High Water.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
I like Hell or High Water.
So she's definitely been in things. I didn't really recognize the rest of the cast at all, though. Beyond that, I don't have too many fun facts. Beyond that, this film was actually filmed on Bertino's family farm.
Made it real cheap then.
Yeah, it was filmed on his parents' farm, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Gives a personal touch to it. Yeah.
Nice setting.
Yeah. I thought that end of things was done well, so pretty cool. That's all I really have for background, though. There wasn't a lot to find on this, probably because it's not an overly talked about film, I guess. So let's get into it with our 15-second summaries.
Sure. We do that before Hides and Screams. I already forgot.
Why does it really matter?
Oh, okay. I don't know. All right. Am I going first?
Yeah.
As usual. All right. I'm ready.
Go.
I don't really know what happened because I couldn't keep my eyes open.
It's kind of ridiculous. The movie I'm in the middle of right now that I've paused about 4 times is much, much slower and more painful.
All right. I can do a real one. Let me go. Ready? All right, a brother and a sister just discard every warning sign that there's a demon and just refuse to believe or get any real help, and then the demon kills them both. And yeah, that's about it.
Okay.
That's where my frustration lies in this movie. With them refusing to acknowledge that, just brushing it off over and over again. It was like the same scare happened 10 times, and afterwards they go, must have been the wind.
That's literally not what happened.
That's what it felt like.
Yeah, but that's not the plot. Literally
when
involves
I read
one
this
of them
plot,
leaving.
Yeah, one of them leaves.
Okay, my turn.
You're right. It took a long time for one of them to leave, though. All right. Ready? Go.
Family farm is overrun by grief. I mean, that's what it's about.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just don't think it does a very good job, but maybe you can convince me when we talk about themes.
All right. Read us the longer
Cool. All right.
plot.
Siblings Luis and Michael return to their family farm in Texas when their father's illness seems to be reaching its last stages. Their mother seems disturbed at their arrival and expresses a desire for the children to leave. That night, she hangs herself in the barn after cutting off her own fingers in the kitchen. As time goes on, Luis and Michael start to understand what happened to their mother. Their father's nurse confides in them that she heard the mother whispering to their father, but it seemed as if she was speaking not to him, but to some other presence. Michael finds their mother's diary, which describes her fears of an unnamed and possibly demonic presence preying on her husband. At their mother's burial, Louise and Michael meet Father Thorne, a priest who claims to have known their mother. Later that night, Father Thorne appears at the farm, beckoning them outside before vanishing before their eyes. Meanwhile, Charlie, a ranch hand who lives in a nearby plot of land in his RV, witnesses a vision of what appears to be Louise, speaking indistinctly and cutting herself repeatedly with a kitchen knife. The entity drives a distraught Charlie to shoot himself. Louise calls the phone number that Father Thorne gave her to ask why he visited the farm the night prior. The man who answers claims to have never met her and says that he lives in Chicago and has never been to Texas. Worried for their father's safety, the siblings summon a doctor for a house call and request that he be moved to a hospital. The doctor determines that their father's health is grave and that he is on his deathbed. He tells the siblings he cannot relocate him to a hospital as moving him could result in him dying en route. On the farm, Louise and Michael find that their large herd of goats have all been brutally killed. That night, Michael is approached in the barn by an apparition of his mother who disappears as she approaches him. Later, while Louise lies in bed beside her father, she has a nightmare in which the entity attempts to possess her, but she manages to resist it before witnessing her father levitating against the ceiling. In the morning, Charlie's granddaughter arrives at the farm and informs Louise that he shot himself 2 days prior. The girl's forlorn demeanor soon turns malevolent, and Louise realizes it is in fact the entity taking the shape of Charlie's granddaughter. She too disappears before Louise's eyes. The nurse arrives moments later to care for Louise and Michael's father. Meanwhile, Louise finds that Michael has fled the farm to return to his wife and daughters, leaving her behind. Michael calls Louise from his cell phone and tells her she too should leave. Moments later, the nurse possessed by the entity begins stabbing herself with a pair of knitting needles, attacking Louise in the process before she dies. Michael arrives at his home and finds the dead bodies of his daughters and wife in the kitchen and what appears to have been a murder-suicide. A distraught Michael cuts his own throat and moments after observes that the bodies of his wife and daughters have disappeared. He realizes the entity has tricked him when his wife and daughters enter the house moments later and find him bleeding to death. Back at the farm, Louise regains consciousness at nightfall and finds that her father is dying. Moments after he dies, the demon in turn attacks and claims her. That's the whole thing.
Yeah. So, unlike Matt, I actually found this movie, decently scary. I hid 4 times and screamed 3 times.
And so I had zero screams?
No, you had 1 half hide.
I had 1 half hide because it was gross.
Okay, and that's half of why I hide in movies ever.
Fine.
Why do you think I hated stop motion? It wasn't because I was scared. It's because body horror is gross.
Oh, well, when I hide movies, it's because I'm scared, usually. That's a good hide. I don't count the gross hides.
Oh, well, then we've been doing this count wrong for a year.
Too bad.
Yeah, no, I hide for both, and I think, disgust is a perfectly fine, feeling for a horror movie to give you.
Yeah, it's fine if there's more. It's not the only thing.
Yeah, no, and that's why, as much as the Saw movies are fun, for the most part, all they're doing for me is disgust, too, so...
And having a sick, anime-style Death Note plotline.
It's so dramatic.
And song.
All of it is so dramatic.
It is the most insane plot of all time. It's incredible, actually. I love those movies. Well, I'm sorry. This movie did not work for me.
Yeah, why don't you start? But don't just, run through everything. Elaborate.
Okay. Something that really bothered me in terms of scary...
I wasn't done talking. I was going to say, give me room to say if I disagree or not.
This movie did the same scare about 10 times, where they would see something, and then the thing would disappear. Oh, it's behind them now. Jump scare. And it did it 10 fucking times.
When I can remember one time
I can remember multiple. Or fine, maybe not behind, but it was somewhere else. It happened so often, and that was the only time I felt like this movie tried to scare. I didn't find the atmosphere to be scary or, eerie at all. So, the only times that my heart elevated at all was those fleeting moments that I felt were, unearned.
So, I will say there is some repetition with, the jump scares. Those kind of get redundant, I would say. But I think there's more to it that makes it scary. The opening, not quite opening, but, first 20 minutes scene where mom cuts all her fingers off.
Yeah, that was cool.
That is unlike anything else in this film.
And it all went downhill after that.
It was creepy as fuck. And I think some of the scares like that are more just what has drawn you to do that is what is scary about it.
Yeah, so, I liked that scene.
I loved that scene. I thought
it was interesting.
It was horrifying. I didn't want to look at it.
And then the movie just lost me every scene after that, more and more and more.
I don't know. I was definitely, every time that they were out with the goats, and we heard, like, the
chimes?
The wind chimes, or, like, yeah, whatever that was, like, shaking every time. And it did happen a couple times, but even if that was redundant, it still got me.
Really? No, nothing for me.
I also thought Mom levitating was creepy as fuck.
That was a cool looking shot, but then she just disappears and then it's the same scare. I think she shows up behind them in that one. It was cool, like it was well-crafted shot. And I was like, yeah, that was sweet. I even said, I was like, that's the best shot in the movie as it happened.
Yeah, that shot was fucking iconic. There's a reason why it's on the posters for the movie.
But I think this movie refuses to, like, grow. It's just, I find, and maybe it's an annoyance with the characters, I feel like kind of just, things happen to them in this movie. For the multiple times until finally he leaves, and then they just go, huh, that was weird. And then they just stay. And then it happens again, and they're like, wow, I can't believe that happened again.
That is just not
That's how I felt.
interpret it at all.
Interpret it was what was on the screen.
That's just not... Like, yes, they do stay, but there's a reason why they're fucking staying.
It's because their dad is sick?
Like
he's going to die anyway.
You're acting like they didn't actually write a significant reason why they wouldn't. You're not going to leave your dying father without help.
When that shit was happening, I was bouncing.
No, you absolutely wouldn't. If I was sick and we only had a daytime caregiver, you would not leave me.
Here's what I'm saying.
And if you would, then
that's
divorce.
Fine. They can stay, but, like, just advance what's happening. Like, it's not that. All right, they don't try to get help, right? They have the priest come in. He's just creepy and weird because it was actually just the demon. Anytime something new is introduced, it turns out, oh, it was just the demon in disguise again.
Yeah.
Every single time.
Yeah.
It's like they do it, like, multiple times, and it just, like, doesn't go anywhere or make me feel anything.
Yeah, I can definitely agree that a lot of it is repetitive, and beyond a couple scenes, it's not overly original, but I do think thematically the fact that it is kind of repetitive is actually relevant.
That's fun. Okay, but it can be relevant to the themes, but if it makes a bad movie, then who cares? Right?
Yeah, I just didn't think it was a bad movie. You did, I didn't. Yeah, and that's just what it is.
Yeah.
I didn't love it, but I didn't think it was bad. Like, I'm not going to say it's below a 5, because it's not for me.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it's the best movie I've seen, and it's certainly not in the top 10 we've covered for this podcast.
It did not pull me in a way that made me even interested in engaging with it, is what I would say. It was not for me. It didn't work for me.
Yeah, Matt, like, was bitching that I was making him record this episode because he didn't want to do it.
Because I was going to complain about the movie. Well, I'm telling you why I didn't like it. I feel like my criticism is valid.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree that some of it was redundant.
I think you also were like, I heard this movie is terrifying. And then I was like, this isn't even, like, top 50 scariest movies I've seen.
I don't know if I've seen enough horror movies. This is definitely my top 50. This is
at least our 50th episode.
Yeah, this is definitely my top 50.
All right.
100% in my top 50. I would put it in my top 20.
In scariest?
Yeah.
What?
I mean, think about how many movies we watched that, like, we had 0 hides or screams, dude.
Sure, but I don't know. Fine. No, I didn't find this. Unfortunately, like you said, the atmospheric stuff didn't work for me in this either.
Oh, see.
But maybe it's because I just thought it got so goofy that, like...
I don't think it got goofy either.
I thought it was goofy every time that someone showed up. Multiple times they were tricked by the demon. And yet, like, it felt...
Well, at some point I'm sure at some point you would get there. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice.
Won't get fooled again.
Won't get fooled again, yeah. But, yeah, I think by the third one, they're pretty convinced that it's an entity. Fool me once, fine.
Except
Fool
he should have known when he
fine.
saw his dead family. I was like, oh, come on.
Okay, well, they know that that's not their... Like, they know that that's something.
No, but he kills himself after seeing his dead family.
Oh,
that was where I was like, my guy. Like, how many times has this demon tricked you? You're going to fall for this one?
Well, that one's different than... The rest of them are all, like, people showing up and talking to them. That one's actually different.
I guess it was just, like, the reluctance to accept that there was a paranormal thing happening.
I think they accepted it very early on. I literally don't know what movie you were watching. I think they accept that within the first 30 minutes of a 90-minute movie. They literally talk about it. Should've
gotten an exorcist.
The second he sees anything, the sister's seen things a couple times, and the brother's like, "All right, cuckoo bananas." But then he sees something.
They still seem so. They still don't.
He sees something, he's like, "Yep, you're so right."
No, that's not
bestie.
true. I'm remembering this differently.
He literally, the first thing he sees is their dead mom. He knows that she's dead.
Well, it's weird, but they still just like, they basically are like, all right, well, what was that? I guess we're crazy. Like, I guess we just saw something.
That's literally not what happens.
He goes out and keeps working. Remember when he was like, oh, I gotta work while I'm here, and like goes off on his own and just keeps like tending to the farm.
But he knows something creepy is happening. That's the thing.
Sure, he knows. They just don't do anything about it.
Well, I think with the demon whatever thing is representative of, there is just like...
Yeah, and this is
there's
why...
There's ways to cope with it, but there's just like ultimately
this is where
elevated
horror completely breaks down and doesn't work. Because to service their elevatedness of their theme, they're like making a nonsensical movie. Where it like really works very well in The Babadook, which is
the
10 times
Babadook
the movie
is just like the ultimate movie about grief and loss.
Yeah,
and,
this feels like
the ultimate horror movie period.
This feels like it was being like a copycat of that, and just like not being scary, not being compelling.
Oh yeah, it's a miserable copy. Like I'm not gonna.
Okay, that's my point. All right, if you agree with me on that, then
I think there's a lot of problems with the theming too. I just think that you're kind of out your mind if you're.
I'm frustrated. I found the movie very frustrating to watch, is what I would say. So. All right, sorry. We can move on. That's my complaints from a plot standpoint.
Well, I thought the movie was very tension-filled, unlike you.
Yeah.
I also thought the aesthetic was pretty depressing. Like, the coloring of the film, the location, it's very, like, desolate. Like, we don't see anyone else. It's just all takes place on the farm. I thought that all of that worked very well for me. It really does feel like a little Texas farm in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't... I don't know. I feel like it looked like every other horror movie that's kind of this level, personally.
It looks significantly better than the trash I have paused right now, so...
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not watching that one, so I wouldn't know. It just doesn't have... I don't know. It's fine. It's just very mediocre.
Good Lord.
What? What do you mean?
Okay, so... Tell me what worked for you.
There were a couple provocative shots.
Like?
The mom floating, I thought, was good. Mom cutting her fingers off was the most compelling part of the movie. And I was like, it was setting me up to be like, oh, this is going to be like a pretty interesting, like scary and atmospheric movie. And then just like nothing from that, unfortunately. To be honest, not much worked for me in this. I don't want to like be a hater. It felt like I've seen this movie 10 times before. Like, and I've seen it in other films. I can't name what the other ones were because I didn't commit them to memory, because it was like, those didn't do that much for me either. So maybe it's just this style of paranormal just doesn't work for me. So I don't know. I don't have much nice to say about it.
How did you feel about the fact that we don't really see the demon or the entity or whatever? Does that work? Does that not work for you?
I think either can work. I don't know if that matters that much. I think it's fun when you have the demon take shape of other people and interact, but like the thing is, I saw it happen multiple times throughout this movie and not be any more interesting. Mm-hmm. So maybe seeing the demon would have helped. I don't know.
Yeah, that's why I asked, because most of the time we are like, no, I don't want to see it, but...
This might be I don't know if I always need this, but like to have some understanding of the demon's motivation. Yeah, no, it is motivation. Would help. Like, why does it just want souls? Does it want dad? I feel like that adds some stakes. Like, if they don't figure out this demon thing and dad dies, is his soul lost forever to this demon? Is he living in hell or whatever forever? Like, something like that might have helped make me feel anything. If
there was any slight investigation.
Anything. Like, why should we be scared of this demon?
Mm-hmm. Because it's
Dad's
scary.
dying anyway. The doctor won't even move him, which was kind of goofy as well. No, but what's scary about it? It kills you, you die. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah. I guess that's a little bit scary.
But it sneaks up behind you a lot.
It sneaks up behind you a lot. Yeah, exactly. That's my point. But if it's like, I don't know.
I don't know, dog. If a bunch of people that I knew and was close to and had trusted and just showed up at my door and, like, turned out to be not them and was a demon taking over someone I cared about's body, that would be pretty fucking scary, regardless of the end consequence.
Sure. I just think when goofy shit starts happening, I'm just putting Dad in the car and we're going to the ER.
Yeah.
And if he dies on the way, he dies on the way.
Yeah, it definitely, the doctor being like, no, we can't take him because he's at risk was weird.
I think that's where my, like, suspension of disbelief ends, unfortunately. And I like to brag that I'm very good at it. But in this one, I was just so frustrated that I couldn't. Could not suspend anymore. All right, tell me, what did you like about it? What worked for you, since I didn't feel like much worked for me?
I feel like I've said all of it already in between your spurts of things
of
that
anger
you were saying, is that I did feel like it was tension-filled. I wouldn't say that the scares are anything that are, like, super unique, but they did, for some reason, work for me. I don't know. I am that kind of bitch that's always going to be scared of a shower scene. Like when someone's in a shower and they pull the curtain back and there's someone there. That's not original. It will always scare me.
That was a good jump scare. That one got me.
Always
But, like,
did
it stick with you? No? It was, like,
I mean, I'm
done.
clearly talking about it now. So,
okay, all right, maybe it did.
like when I shower and I'm home alone, I think about that kind of shit, and this will just be added to the repertoire. I thought the imagery of Mom levitating was super scary. I
wish we saw more of that.
Yeah, I could have done with that lasting a little longer, but I don't think if we had more scenes with that, I think then that would have been repetitious.
More scenes of people looking out windows, seeing people stand in their yard just staring at them. You can do that forever, and it's always scary.
Yeah, but that's your problem with this movie. That happened like 4 times. And then you said
no, they always interacted. I liked the one where she stared and then floated. Yeah. All right, tell me though, what do you think, in, like, from a filmmaking standpoint, helped with you feeling tension in this movie? Was there anything that you can, like, name? I'm not questioning you. Or not interrogating you. I'm actually curious.
I don't know. I feel like none of the scares just, like, came out of nowhere. It's not like a phone call ring and then you jump, you know? Like,
there were a lot of audio stings, though.
Yeah, no, I won't debate you on that. There were, and I know you were pissed off about them. But I felt like every scene where something scary did happen, the characters were also sensing tension or discomfort around them and were looking around for it. So it, like, built to all of the scares for the most part.
And
I think that always helps. It doesn't feel as cheap.
Okay.
I also think any, like, imagery of, like, your dead or dying parent doing something they should not be able to do is inherently fucking creepy. Like, Dad is he even, like, I don't even know his level of consciousness this whole movie, and when he is up and standing behind someone, that is fucking terrifying to me. Same when, like, a mom is dead, so, like, her being outside just, like, staring at a person or levitating is fucking scary. Honestly, Mom kind of scares me from the beginning because she's clearly, like, very depressed and, like, not engaging too much and then, like, cutting off her fingers. So honestly, she's scary throughout the whole movie.
I think this is just something that doesn't work for me. But I will say you said something that I have an issue with, and it's that we don't know Dad's level of consciousness. Had we known anything about what was going on there, like, again, that might add some intrigue.
Well, I think they make it very, very clear he's dying.
But, like, he seems like comatose to me.
Yeah, he does. He does seem like he's in a coma, but I don't know.
Which could work. I mean, Insidious works, right? But, like, to just not know, maybe that's why I didn't give a shit. I was like, oh, he's dead. He was basically 3/4 dead by the time the movie started.
Okay,
so
but if that were your parent or family member, you would still give a shit.
After what happened to Mom, I don't know.
Well, they came home because Dad was.
They did question. They were like, how did she end up here? There was no way that she could be like hanging here.
Why are you talking about that? That's
no,
not what
because
we're
I'm
about.
saying if I were to have that happen, I'd be like, yeah, there's something spooky going on here. Time to get out. Everyone get in the car.
I literally don't understand the relevance of why you brought this up.
I'm saying because they should have known immediately they were in danger.
That's not what we were just talking about, but fine.
Okay.
I don't think. I feel like I'm having...
It made sense to me.
Okay, it didn't to me, but maybe I'm just having like a brain fart. Again, you keep acting like they weren't clear that something scary was happening, and I feel like within a half hour they're pretty clear on it, and the sister just doesn't want to leave her dad because, like, I wouldn't either. Like, I can't even argue with the plot because I would want to leave. I'd be scared of being there, and they literally do. They call fucking his doctor to be like, please authorize him moving.
I'd be getting a second opinion. No, I'm just...
I know, but, like, we don't...
It's fine.
This happened over, like, 2 days.
No, it happened over a week. They give you the whole dates.
Okay, yeah, I know.
They literally say Monday,
like,
Tuesday, Wednesday.
I don't think that that's that long of a period of time, especially when you have a sick parent that you're trying to, like, orchestrate all of that. Like, if you don't remember, I actually work in this field in healthcare, and I currently work as a service coordination
The nurse
entity,
was there. You could have left.
And the nurse didn't have 24/7 hours. This man needs 24/7 care, and if it can't be provided, then, like... And again, I work in the medical system. I know how fucking slow everything moves.
Sure.
A week is not enough time.
I don't want to argue over this part. It's dumb.
I know, but you're kind of, like...
Oh, no,
like, it's not reasonable how that panned out. That's just, like, not what I'm going to take away as a valid criticism.
I think I would have more understanding if we had any information about Dad at all, other than he's dying. Because they make it seem like he's got a day.
I mean, clearly that's why they went home.
Actually, they have a week.
And when someone is really sick, you don't really know.
No,
like, I have a client right now who was in the hospital, and I actually thought they were dying, okay. And they're still kicking it. Like, my dad, for example, we literally thought he was dying in October because that's what it sounded like. And guess what, bitch? It's June. That man is still not dead. So, like, you don't always know. Again, my mom...
All right, this is getting way too
I just
off
think
the
that
rails.
You're being twat.
Okay. That's fine. You can think that.
I just don't think your criticisms are, like...
my criticism is the movie's not scary or interesting. That's my criticism.
Well, that's fine, but then don't go criticizing.
But I'm saying, I'm trying to say why I find it. I'm trying to diagnose what would make it more interesting, and that was my point.
I still don't think you've effectively done that either.
No, I'm saying I think if we knew anything about the demon or Dad's level of care, or like Dad's level of where he is, or like honestly, it'd be more interesting if he was fucking not comatose and could speak.
No.
I think it'd be way more interesting.
I think that would, like...
If he would have gotten up... No, okay. Yeah.
I don't think that would have done anything for the movie besides, like, make it worse. I think the whole point is that Dad is on death's doorstep and they're all dealing with the grief of Dad dying, and that's why Mom dies because...
Mom dies because a demon gets her.
Do you not understand that the demon is symbolism of grief?
They did... I mean, I understand it. I just think it's dumb and not good.
Yeah, I don't think it's done as well as the Babadook, 100%. Like, and I do kind of take issue with some of what happens, but yeah, the demon is 100%.
I don't think the subtext works in this at all either, but you can tell me about what you think.
Yeah, I'm going to start doing that now. I think the entity is basically a grief monster a la the Babadook. It's all of, like, Mom and then the two children's grief over their father's illness and then the two children's grief also over their mom passing. So the movie is very much like the impact that grief can have on you. Like, we're all gonna have it. It will impact all of us, which is why every person that we've seen in the movie interact with this family suffers in some way, because that is how grief will impact us. It doesn't, like, you don't have to be the spouse, the child, like, it could be even the caregiver is going to have some sort of grief, or like family friend. So I think that is why it's, like, significant that it goes even after, like, Charlie. And it, like, grief will impact you regardless of your beliefs, your religion, etc. Even if you have those coping skills, that doesn't, like, mean that you're not gonna experience grief in some regard. Like, losing someone hurts like hell no matter what you believe. It can't save you from that. And I think there is a one quote that I really liked that was, "What does it matter what you believe? You think a wolf cares if you believe it's a wolf, not if it finds you alone in the woods," which I think is also about that, like, belief system might help you process your grief, but it's not gonna save you. And I do, because I think some of the main characters are kind of guilt-tripped by not being religious earlier in the movie, and then the movie itself says, no, we don't mess with that. That's not right. So, I don't know, I think basically how I interpret it is mom, like, we start grieving someone before they've passed if they have a chronic illness. So I think early in the movie, the kids just, like, aren't around, they're not as present, so it's not, like, affecting them from afar or anything, because they clearly just don't have the same relationship that they, like, wish they had. And so mom, because she's there, she's seeing, like, him losing, you know, his mojo, his, like, getting sicker, and realizing that he's, like, on his way out. That's when mom starts to be affected, and it just goes from there.
Yeah, I think it's really weak.
What I don't like, because I think that is very, like, on the nose. Like, I thought about that pretty early in the movie. I was like, oh, it's a grief monster.
I think you can think about it.
And that's why it starts coming after the two kids.
I don't think it works, though. I think the text is counter to the subtext. Because, like, it...
What I don't like is that then every character passes away by suicide.
Yes.
And I just, like, don't know what the fuck that is saying, besides, like, yeah,
grief will make you kill yourself.
Like, affect you. But, like, yeah, will grief make us all die by suicide? I don't love that.
I understand what they're going for, but I don't even think they make contact. Because it's like... Oh, all right, well, I'm looking at the Babadook. It's its own creature that is very distinctly grief, and it, like, makes total sense. And everything about that movie plays into that subtext, mm-hmm. and this monster. I think it also really helps that it's specifically mom's grief, and that there's only two people in the movie. I think that, like, well, really two main characters that are affected by a specific person's grief.
Well, I think this is specifically saying, like, grief on a community level. That's why it's multiple people.
That's fine, but the subtext doesn't... All that happens is the monster speaks mean things in your head, makes you see things, and then forces you to kill yourself. I just don't know where the translation from I'm grief monster to those things are. Like, it's textually a demon. And I think that's probably where the mistake happens.
Babadook is textually a monster. We don't actually get a name for, like... Mom refers to it in her diary as the devil. We don't get anything more specific than that. So I think saying textually it's anything is incorrect. I would say textually we don't know what it is. Which is also, like, I think the ambiguity is intentional for other reasons. But
I just don't think it works as grief because there's one part of grief that this monster touches on.
Well, I think, like, obviously when we lose someone, it could just, like, make us feel like there's no reason to go on when we're missing someone we love so much. But, yeah, like, we don't always have it severe enough that we want to die. And so I think going as far as every character dying is a lot. I think that thematic matter, like, I think that would go over a lot better if they didn't all die. I think if they were all affected by the monster in some capacity, that would be better for me.
I'll also say that the monster takes the dad over at the end and attacks her as the dad. So, like, the grief monster wants dead body, or wants, like, that's where it becomes, like, this demon souls thing to me. I thought it was him.
At the end because
it was the dad that attacked her.
Explicitly dead, but, like, maybe.
I thought the second he died, he got back up and got her.
No, that's not how I interpreted it.
Oh, I saw it as dad.
But I also, like, maybe looked down and took a note.
I thought it was dad.
I took it as, like, she's grieving his illness throughout the entire movie and mom's passing, but, like, he's officially died and her pain is increasing exponentially because she's now has officially lost both parents, so it finally can, like, take her over. Like, her grief is at its strongest, so now it's...
I guess that's where it fails for me again.
I interpreted it, but again, I do agree that there are definitely some issues with that. I don't know why. It's just the dying by suicide for me that I just, like, can't get over that element of the theming and what the fuck that means. I would also say,
so I'm always gonna have to compare this to the Babadook, which I think is, like, pretty perfect. And so, like, in the Babadook, she is not fighting the monster. The monster is affecting her life, wearing her down until it takes her over. And then she is her grief, and that is all she is. In this one, they're actively like trying to like fight this thing.
Because when you're grieving, sometimes you have the capacity or coping skills to like fight it. Sometimes you don't.
This feels like a stretch. Because she fights it the whole time, and then at the end, it just gets her. I don't know.
Either way, she's...
having the descent into it just works so much better. It's hard for me not to compare it to the Babadook if this is what it's going for. It just feels very, very surface level. Like, it maybe not even isn't even on the surface. Like, it didn't even touch it. And that's where, like, part of that frustration comes from me as well. And probably why I was like, I don't even feel like... I'm being so mean. I'm sorry. I don't even feel like it's worth me giving this movie credit for the subtext because it feels so far removed from the subtext it's trying to get to. Is that mean?
I mean, if you didn't get there when you were watching
I
then,
did.
Like, you can say that,
I understood what it was going for. I was just like, this doesn't work.
I think it works exponentially better than Smile, which we
Sure,
just watched.
Smile's a piece of shit, though.
I gave a 4, so this is getting...
I know we're spoiling. That's our next episode. We're out of order.
Oh, fuck.
You're letting everyone know on behind the curtain.
I didn't hear anything.
You're the wizard.
Fuck. Did I give... Is that what I gave it?
I don't know.
Okay, sorry. Didn't like Smile. Okay.
Smile... Oh, you know what's interesting? Smile has a horrible, horrible message.
But it's clear.
But it's much clearer than where in this one I was just like... I don't know. Like, yeah, I see it.
Wow, we're really covering 3 movies right in a row with very similar subtext.
And I didn't like any of them.
Yeah, we're on a bad streak. Okay, anyway.
This is why elevated horror is dead. Just make movies about things.
I wouldn't even call I wouldn't call Smile elevated horror, but we don't need to... Nope, let's not do that.
People would.
Let's not do it.
It's trying to be that, is what I would say.
I think this is also, if you, like, beyond even the grief element of it, it's definitely just, like, a dark family drama. Like, it's very much just about the way that the family interacts with each other and, like, how they're dealing with their own relationships, which, in that regard, I like. Like, clearly, the kids have not been present enough for mom or dad, so they're not seeing, like, how poorly mom is coping with everything until they get there. And then it's, like, the two of them kind of, like, dealing with the consequences of that. Like, sister says, we should have talked to her. And brother says, well, we didn't. Because he's kind of accepted, like, we didn't do that. We can't really change it. But sister obviously has her guilt and her regrets. And there's, like, even the priest, like, blames them and was like, she's alone. She needed someone. I didn't do that. And obviously the priest is the grief entity. But again, it's
I was about to say, yeah, the priest isn't real.
Yeah, but again, that's like, I didn't do that to her. I didn't make her alone. But, like, it's like them coming to terms with, like, the part that they might have played in their mom's, like, inability to cope with, like, life. Even though, like, obviously that's not their fault, but obviously their relationships are relevant.
Okay. So I see all that. And I'm going to say subtextually when they show up, mom is like, you shouldn't have come. You shouldn't be here. And subtextually you would say, oh, she's mad at them because she's grieving and they weren't there for them. But textually, she's saying you shouldn't have come because she knows there's a bad demon presence that's going to get them. And for me, that's way scarier when she's saying that and they think she's being mean. They're just like, oh, she's being mean. But no, she was actually trying to protect us and, like, loves us. That hits way harder. So that's where I'm saying this text and subtext don't work together. Because it works... You see what I'm saying?
No,
I was more scared.
100%.
I was more scared when I was like, oh, she was not being a bitch. She was just like, you need to get out of here, but I can't tell you why or else you're going to be in danger.
Yeah, and I think kind of the way it actually occurs is ambiguous whether she was being a bitch or not, but
I think it's very ambiguous. Textually and subtextually just are different.
True.
That's me. What is big? I'm just fucking around.
Obviously.
But that's what I'm saying. It's
no word, Matt.
It's yeah. That's I feel like that is the main thing though, is that I feel like everything kind of clashes.
Something.
All right, tell me some more.
Yeah, the last, like, thematic thing that I will say is, again, why I think they have it take the form of so many people around them. Evil's everywhere, regardless of, like...
Evil? I thought it was grief. Grief is...
I know, but I think that is how, like, a lot of people, like, on the surface interpreted the movie, is that's just, like, evil's everywhere, it's gonna come for you no matter what. It doesn't really matter.
What? Evil? I'm so this is why I was frustrated when I watched this movie.
Okay.
So, how do you agree with that take, or do you think that take is bad?
I mean, I think that's, like, really surface level, and if that's all that we're getting from this 90 minutes, then that sucks. But I do think, like, that quote about being, do you think a wolf cares if you believe it's a wolf, not if it finds you alone in the woods? Like,
that's cool.
I do think that quote kind of does lend itself to that.
That's about evil, though, not about grief, right?
I think it can lend itself to either, depending on how you want to interpret it.
I feel like another fault of this movie is assuming that grief is a bad thing. Like, I feel like they're inherently saying grief bad when grief is not bad. Grief is normal and okay.
Yes.
And
I do agree with that.
Good and bad. It's not a positive or a negative. It just is.
I would say it's more on the negative side, but I think it's healthy to, like grieving is a part of the process of losing someone.
Yeah.
Or, like,
and
knowing that even you're going to pass away. Like, that's normal and natural.
Can I say, though, like, and maybe I'll get a little corny here, but, like, grief can only come if a massive love, like, came before it. So, like, that, to me, grief is really just, the bigger the grief, the more you loved something. Right? So, like, grief might be bad, but it reminds you, like, the only reason you feel this way is because you felt so good about something else. So, like, that's where I'm, like, to just be, like, grief bad. And the Babadook nails that again.
Yes.
Absolutely nails that. The monster doesn't have to be bad, but the monster's always going to be with you. And grief will always be with you. You can make it small and cover it with things, but it will always be there. But that doesn't mean it's always bad. And maybe this movie fails on that. Maybe that's why I'm angry, is because that bothers me.
Yeah, no, I think that's totally fair.
Sorry if I word vomited there. I wanted to make sure I made my point.
You made your point.
All right. I was trying to get emotional on the pod, you know?
Okay.
Maybe someone's crying out there.
I doubt that.
Grief is good. I wouldn't say it's good. Grief is neutral.
So, Matt's hot take apparently about this movie is that it's completely undeserving if it's 91% on Rotten Tomatoes.
It's not worth watching. It's not worth of any rating because you don't need to watch it. Sorry, I'm... Again, art is good. People should create things. I don't think this person shouldn't have created. I'm not creating like they are, so I'm a little bitch. But I'm allowed to criticize, and I will be critical and say I really disliked this.
I would say my hot take would also be that it isn't worthy of that.
It had a 3 on Letterboxd, which feels more reasonable.
Yeah, but that's also, like, overall net positive, hence why it would, like, get a 91. So, I mean, like, I get it.
A 3 out of 5's failing.
3 out of 5 is a 6 out of 10, which is overall positive in Rotten Tomatoes language, I would assume. Yeah.
Okay.
So, if you, like, just scroll for, like, hot takes on Twitter, I'm basically only seeing people who really, really like this movie.
Interesting. So on Letterboxd, maybe that's what we could do. Letterboxd reviews, bring in some really bad ones.
That would be really funny.
There's some good ones.
You're in charge of doing that.
The issue is I agreed with a lot of them. And one of them was about the elevated horror thing and was like, this is just such a copycat. And, like, people basically just being like, not understanding what the elevated genre is. I'm doing quotes and rolling my eyes when I say that. And just kind of, like, repeating the same thing because they don't really know what makes something else work. But apparently the critics loved it. They lapped this shit up, which I was surprised by, considering horror typically does terribly among critics. Like, why would this really run-of-the-mill bland one do well when, like, actual good horror movies don't?
Well, catch us next week for us to have the same conversation about Smile, or listen to last week's episode on stop motion where we have the exact same conversation, because all 3 of those movies got great reviews and we don't get it.
Is it really the exact same conversation? It's worth listening.
Oh, no, I don't mean it like that. I just mean
okay.
overall where we get to this place of like, what the fuck are the critics
You totally
doing?
made that sound like don't listen to the podcast.
Oh, no, that's not what I meant. We actually, again, dive very much into thematically what those movies are saying and what works or doesn't work. I think the Smile episode, which is next week, is a great fucking episode. I'm really happy with how that came out. And I think the stop motion episode was really great as well. And we loved having Anna on.
I think it was much easier for me to talk about the themes in Smile than in this one, even though I didn't like the movie.
I thought stop motion was easier and there was nothing to say. Because the themes of that director didn't know what they were doing with the themes of their movie, so...
It was easier to make interpretation. Yeah. This one, I felt like they knew what they were doing, they just didn't do it very well.
Yeah, I definitely think it falls short. I like the idea, but I think... Yeah, I agree with your issues with the theming, 100%.
100 people, you still find it scary?
I did find it scary, so like automatically as a horror movie, it's getting points from me, dog.
Alright. Well...
Do you have a favorite scene?
Yeah, mom floating or mom cutting her fingers off.
Mom cutting her fingers off is my favorite scene. I said it before, I'll say it again. That shit was...
I was like, oh, this movie's going to be sweet. And then, boom.
Well, yeah, having heard it was really scary, and then that being, like, the intro to the scares, I was like, oh, I'm fucked. Like, I'm screwed.
Nope. Yeah. I think I will also say, after watching Skinamarink, I have a new bar for what I find to be scary. And so, like, if something... Like, it really needs to get under my skin what that movie did.
My first ever horror movie is what I think is one of my scariest.
Mama? Or Insidious?
Insidious. It's like objectively is quite
Insidious is
scary.
very scary. I mean, you know how I feel about it. Go listen to our episode on it. It was one of our, like, first episode. No, it was our first episode.
Because I love Insidious.
I like it, but I did have some complaints.
I kind of rated it bad, but I love it so much.
Yeah. Well,
it is one of my like top horror movies.
Next week, remind me to get a terrible Letterboxd take because I think that there's some just horrible ones on there or really funny reviews, and we can shout people out.
Yeah.
All right, let's rate this thing.
I was gonna give it higher before we started the episode, but now, just because...
Did I wear you down?
Yeah, a little bit. I think it's just the theming not landing the way I want it to the point where it starts to like be kind of rough, and like kind of against my career to a degree. I'm gonna give it a 6.5.
Thinking about this movie and talking about it wants me to like re-rate Smile, which I also thought was a piece of shit, but I think I have this higher than Smile, lower than stop motion, so I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 10.
That's crazy to me. I don't think it's a 4 out of 10, but we are all allowed to have our own opinion.
Because I've been actually tracking where I've rated things, I can really compare them to each other.
Yeah.
Hey, that's higher than Immaculate. Honestly, you know what? Immaculate also felt similar to this movie.
I see that, yeah.
Immaculate maybe looked a little bit better.
Yeah. I definitely have like the biggest piece of shit out of all of these movies that we're discussing.
We should have covered We Are Still Here. I actually liked that movie. And it was also kind of about death.
No one knows what that is.
No one knows what this is.
That's not true. I've literally seen this posted all over the socials.
And people love it?
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to get death threats.
So, oops.
I don't get it. I do not get it.
Everyone can comment, tell Matt why he's a dum-dum.
I feel like
or why he is your voice of reason and he speaks
I hope
the masses.
That's what I want to be when I'm being very critical. I hope that people are like, it's a cathartic experience and people are like, yeah, like that's how I felt.
I gotta say though, I was real fatigued by you in the first like 30 minutes.
I'm sorry.
It was causing me like pain. I couldn't even figure out how to like have a conversation. But
hey, I think I justified my feelings.
I think some of your feelings, like we said earlier, I think you were nitpicking by like a lot at some point.
Thematically, I justified my feelings.
But thematically, you justified it, and we'll give you points back. I came back.
Thank you.
So,
all right, I'm done here.
Yeah, that's all we had to say about. The fuck is this movie? The Dark and the Wicked.
What did I call it? The Dull and Uninteresting.
Yeah, according to
the
Matt.
Dull and the Uninteresting.
Yeah. So, on to the next one.
3 X's, Family Feud. Smile next week. You're in for a treat.
A real treat. It involves lots of laughter, wing eating.
You can watch. You don't even need to watch the movie. Just listen to that episode. It's better.
Yeah.
And shorter.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good one. All right.
Smile's getting a sequel. Stupid. All right.
All right, we'll catch you next week. Bye.
I'm Matt Hanna.
I'm Grissom. Thank you for listening to Horror Hour with the Hannas. Make sure to listen to future episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, or wherever you can find podcasts. You can follow us at Horror Hour with the Hannas on TikTok and Instagram for more content. If you like the podcast, please follow and leave a review on your favorite podcasting app. Happy hauntings!